thank you for coming today. If everyone can please start taking their seats so we can start this session. I would love to introduce this session, which is titled Global Investment Opportunities in High Growth Sectors. And firstly, I would want to thank the Qatar Investment Authority, which is sponsoring this breakout session. We have an interesting list of speakers today. It's going to be 3 people and then 3 people joining us. So I want to seize the time and introduce my panelists, starting with Christophe Bavière, the co-CEO of Eurazeo. Please welcome him to stage. Mohammed Al-Sowaidi, who's QIA's Chief Investment Officer for the Americas. And finally, Patrick Zhong, who is the founding managing partner of M31 Capital. All right, we don't have a lot of time, so we're going to start right away. We're going to start by just giving a brief introduction about this session, which, I mean, if I want to say that in an increasingly globalized world, identifying and capitalizing on right investment opportunity is paramount for investors, and you 3 are some of, the world's top investors. So, Christophe, I want to start with you. Are there any specific industries or sectors that you see in international markets that are, attractive to you right now?
Thank you, Bavière, for this question. Eurazeo is concentrating its investment in Europe. We are 80% of what we do is in Europe. We are 20% is overseas, but when we invest internationally, we want these companies to have a link with Europe. Europe is a land of opportunities. It's a specific investment universe because it's a patchwork of different countries, but it has always been a very interesting, a very robust, a very resilient area of investment opportunities. From what we perceive today, obviously the market is less favorable than it has been. We've been through a golden age where debt was available and was cheap, and this obviously helps a lot of poor business models to become very profitable, but we are concentrating currently in Europe in, for example, healthcare. Obviously, Europe is an area of the world where the population is aging and is highly demanding of better services in terms of healthcare. So definitely healthcare is, in our view, in Europe, still a very interesting sector. We are also investing a lot in financial services because these are developing, and the digitalization of financial services will cover high growth investment opportunities, and definitely the digitalization of the financial industry is a very, very strong trend that is here to stay. And generally speaking, everything that is relevant to tech-enable businesses, to the digitalization of mature businesses, is also a very important area of investment for Eurazeo.
Right. And then, Mohamed, from QIA's perspective, do you share Christophe's sentiment? Are those the sectors that you're interested in? Are you looking at something different, especially that you're from the region?
No, I mean, he summed it extremely well. I would summarize it as well and add a little bit of that. So I think the way we look at it, obviously we're a global firm. We invest across geographies and strategies, and we have to always think of 2 dimensions, a short to medium-term dimension. In this case, it is dealing with inflation, with supply chain matters, and some of that related to COVID, some of that related to the over-generous monetary policy. And the second view is a longer-term view. And longer-term view, it has an intersection between technology and industries. It's a super big theme. You hear what's going on in ChatGPT, for example, and all those kind of nuisance. And I think it's an eventual evolution, which is the strength of software and hardware. And then consumer behavior. And then, as mentioned well, winning business models, because now we have a higher interest rate environment. So you have to be careful with efficiencies and with being able to go through turmoils. So it's a short-term and a long-term view. Long-term is more on the fundamentals of businesses.
I'm just hoping ChatGPT doesn't steal my job in the next couple of years.
It will steal all of us, by the way. I think we'll end up in the Caribbean or something, relaxing.
Well,
We hope so.
All of us will have to adapt.
I'm more optimistic than you. Patrick, M31, what are the opportunities, attractive sectors you're looking at?
Well, first of all, Mohammed, and thank you and QIA for inviting me to be here and to join this panel. I knew Eurazeo, I know QIA really, really well. So first of all, I think three of us are sitting here. Seems like we're talking about three geographies in the world. No, it's not. The whole world is interconnected. So when we talk about themes, we start with global themes. We're based in Shanghai and Beijing. We're looking for generational names rising from the theater of China. But essentially, we're looking at the same themes. So in my view, there are four things that we're keenly interested. Number one is energy transition. And climate change is part of that. And number two, demographics. Demographics is going to be a challenge for all of us in developed economies for the next 10, 20, and 30 years. We need to think about this. Number three is AI. This thing is sweeping across geographies and industries. The last thing Mohammed clearly identified is the reorganization of supply chain, how this is going to look like for the next 10 years. Those are the things we're interested. And one thing I just want to add, and I was listening to one of the panels at the main stage, and Bloomberg projected for the next 5 years, 2023 to 2028, China will contribute, even today, with all the kind of pessimism out there, 22.6% of growth for the world. And the US will contribute about 11.3.
Wow, Mohammed, I want to go back to you, and I want to understand from QIA's perspective and your perspective, what do you think are some of the key factors that investors need to look at when they're considering, making those investments? I know QIA has been an active global investor in the past, decade. So what exactly are you looking at? What are the key factors you're looking at?
It's a very wide question, but I would kind of sum it into maybe two key points. One is a winning business model, which is robust within that firm, whether it's a big or a small business, and that business model serves well the end users. Second is alignment of management, because even with the best model, if you don't have the management team that's innovative and aligned and have skin in the game and wanting to success, even the business model will fail. And if you have a business model which is almost there, with the right management team, it could actually upgrade it. So those are the two key things, and they're very important for us because we are rarely a control investor.
Christophe?
Well, what I can add to what Mohamed just mentioned, which is a very fair point, is the fact that when we are adapting currently our investment strategy to the new environment that we are facing for a year or so, is two major criteria that we are looking at. First, we are less and less relying our outperformance on leverage. The market has been what it was with abundant leverage. And some of our competitors, some investors, have been able to leverage with very high level of leverage and with very cheap leverage. This is not the case anymore, and this is not the case, and this is here to stay. So what we are currently doing is to adapt our investment strategies to more resilient strategies where we rely less on the benefit of leverage and where we rely more on the benefit of helping our portfolio companies to grow organically and to grow inorganically. So this is the first change in the current environment of our investment strategy. The second significant change, is to put ESG requirements at the front of our investment, of our selection criteria, because what we perceive is that this is here to stay, and the level of requirement of investors are increasing, and when we are buying an asset today, we will probably be selling it in 5 or 6 years from now, and our expectation is that the level of requirement of new investors regarding environment, regarding impact, regarding social constraint is continuing to grow, and we don't want to have, in 5 years from now, stranded assets that will not match the next set of criteria for investment. So these are the two, we'd say, core themes that are structuring our investment strategy now.
Yeah. And Patrick, a list of criteria you look at when you want to invest in international markets?
Well, let me actually speak from the entrepreneur's perspective on risk. And last week, I had a dinner with one of the best consumer SaaS company in China. It's called Sensors Data. The CEO, he said, you know, I used to think most of our successes come from our hard work, just because we're good at what we do. Then he realized today, maybe that only contributes to 20% of his success. And he says, I never thought about like J-Paul raising rates in the US would have an impact on what I do, right? It's a consumer tech business in China. So all of a sudden, I think it's the investors and also entrepreneurs were looking at a new set of challenges and the risks. And our entrepreneurs, they work 24/7. As long as they're not sleeping, they're looking at the business, they want to drive the business. But they don't have time to think about all this kind of risks. I think it is Eurazeo, QIA, and us, as investors, our job, because we spend a lot of time understanding what's going on in the world. That's why we are here together. And we should help our companies to think through the risk. And one of the things that I did was, you know, bringing a group of 30 Chinese CEOs over here last year, actually during the World Cup. And I had Ray Dalio spending 90 minutes speaking with them, helping them understanding the macro risks. They appreciated so much from that. It's not just finding a CFO for them. It's about helping them understanding the wide range of risks, which is very dynamic. We know this bit better than the entrepreneurs.
That's, by the way, it's an excellent point, because I'm sure Eurazeo would be the same thing. You would notice that a lot of founders or CEOs will have an excellent operational view of things. So you have to enable them to kind of think even bigger and learn from long-term trends. The other thing which is absolutely, confirms your point is we had a generous monetary environment over the past, 12, 15 years. So now, a lot of the people actually in positions, they have never seen an environment like this.
And you guys actually brought me to my next point. I wanted to speak about risks. And over the past 3 years, 4 years, the market has been pretty turbulent. We had COVID, inflation is really high right now. There are measures that are being taken to bring it down, and it's affecting markets, and it's creating a lot of volatility. So if you were to pinpoint the biggest risk to your business right now, what would it be? I know it's pretty hard to bring it down to one element, so you can have to, but what are the biggest risks that are facing you when you're making investments in international markets? Mohammed?
Okay, ask me first, the most difficult question, because you said only one.
If Patrick or Christophe can volunteer, we can go to them.
The hobby risk department is to come with a 20-page, right? So every single thing could be actually there. But if I would say one is understanding, it's a bit interrelated. So we had a very tight consumer behavior during COVID, and then a very expanded consumer behavior during COVID, and it included consumer savings, and also it's included government supports, and it's included also demographic changes on people and what they're thinking of doing. So you see this also, even when we had a higher interest rate environment, the consumer confidence across markets has been strong, which is a bit puzzling. So I would say, and also another matter related to it. So as the consumer comes back to businesses and want to deal with them, there could be a lot of businesses that are in the making, which even be more attractive for the consumer. So I would say one of the key risks for businesses as you build them or look at them is understanding the revenue line and how sticky is that revenue line, especially if you're thinking of businesses which have a human interaction.
Patrick, I'll go to you next.
And I think there are like two risks. They are
So he's
as
cheating,
far.
he's a one.
No, we'll give him two. You
The
can get
number
two.
one is geopolitics because I sit in China,
Yes, true.
right?
This,
Yes,
by
this is a
default.
number one, definitely number
true.
one. But there's the other one people actually don't pay so much attention to is where the U.S. dollars go. In a lot of developing countries today, they have a larger population, but they don't have U.S. dollars. For anyone who operates there, you're not making money.
Makes sense.
Christophe, we
And yeah, it's difficult to be the last to cover. I already mentioned also the fact that we are adapting our reliance to leverage, and we are also adapting, strengthening our ESG constraint. But to cover something different, what is changing in our industry? A big risk for an investment firm today is that entrepreneurs, and Patrick, you mentioned entrepreneurs, the very, very best investment opportunities, the very, very best entrepreneurs, the very, very best managers of the best business models today, we are facing, all of us in this room, something that is changing in the financial industry, in the private equity industry, is that they have the choice. You know, the very, very best investment opportunities, they can choose who will be backing them. Because even if money is less available than during the golden age of private equity, money, the dry powder of investment firm is still very strong. And the major risk for us today is that we want entrepreneurs, we want managers to choose us as much as obviously we choose them. And to do that, to hedge this risk, that they have the choice today, that the financial industry is very active, we need, all of us in this room, we need to show that we add value, that we don't bring only dollars or only euros, in our case, but that we are bringing something new, more international, more M&A support, more ESG support, but this is a major risk for all of us. It is a major change in our industry. The very, very best investment opportunities, they have the choice today to pick up as much as we pick them.
I'm going to make it just a little bit harder for you. We spoke briefly about ESG investing and how your company is interested in that. Briefly, what are the biggest risks involved in ESG investing?
There is, for us, definitely the way we see it is that when we will be selling an asset, so in average, in 5 years from now, there are some risks that are rising risks today, but in 5 years we perceive nobody will want anymore to take this kind of risks. In terms of governance, we are all improving our government standards. In terms of gender diversity, we all are raising our standards. And for us, in terms of risk, what we don't want is to invest today in an investment opportunity in an underlying company where the starting point may have some weakness. But if we perceive that we are not able to fix these weaknesses, and when we will be selling the asset, these weaknesses will still be there, will not be fixed. We don't want to do the investment anymore. And something that is growing is that, in the companies that we all back, we want to back fast-growing companies. Fast-growing companies need to be able to attract the very best talents. Yeah. And today, if a company doesn't have any policy in terms of ESG, any, ambition, it's more and more difficult to attract the very, very best talents, the very, very best managers, the youngest talents. And this is definitely something that we want to take care of.
Yeah, and you brought up diversity, which is one of my favorite topics, but not just gender diversity, but diversity in general. And it brings me up to my next question. We're here today, I'm in this room, I see people, coming from everywhere, which is exciting to see that this region is hosting people that are flooding from all over the world. And the question is, how important do you guys think the cultural element or the cultural understanding of a certain region is when you make those investment strategies? And I'll start with Patrick.
I want to slightly kind of cheat a little bit in changing your question. And I think, I was recently in the US twice. Major conferences, I was the only Chinese speaker. The many people who said they came to China like once a quarter, they haven't been back to China yet. And there are just, let me share with you some stats. I don't know if people kind of hear about this from the media. And China made 7 million electric vehicles last year, and representing 60% of the global share. The number one EV company is not Tesla. It's a company called BYD. They are 5 times the size of BMW, which is number 3 in the world. China led the transition to renewable 82% of energy storage produced in the world last year, and was made by the Chinese private companies. And the solar modules is the same thing. And China still has the largest engineering pool. The top 5 most downloaded apps in America, 4 are Chinese today. People always talk about TikTok. I'm a very proud investor in TikTok, but there are another 3 made top 5. I was in Miami recently at a major conference. At dinner, I just walk over to this restaurant, and a 17-year-old, looks like 17-year-old, young African-American girl. And she said, "Sir, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Shanghai." She says, "Where's Shanghai?" I said, "Shanghai is the largest city of China." Then she looked at me, she says, "Is TikTok from China?" I said, "Yes, it's from China." And then I said, "I happen to be an investor in TikTok." She was like holding my arm. She says, "I spent 16 hours on TikTok." And then she turned around to tell the other 4 girls. She says, "This guy is an investor from TikTok." They were just like that. So this is the cultural thing, right? And you think, the thing we back, they help the world and communicate. But in this world today, there's very little interaction. The flights between US and China today is 5% of the flight capacity prior to COVID. That's how bad it has been. So I'm so happy, we're here and from Paris, from Qatar, and certainly you spent a lot of time in the US. I spent a lot of time in Shanghai. We're here with a room full of people to talk about the world.
Yeah. Mohammed, briefly, we've got 2 minutes left, and I promised the team yesterday I would stick to the timing.
Having people, two things would differentiate you. I mean, your point on being an investor of choice is a super important point, because you would have to be an investor of choice. 2 things will make you, potentially, the key things to make you an investor of choice. First, investing in human capital within your organization. So you have a top team, and we at QIA, we're very proud of the team that we have, to be honest. The second thing, proximity to markets. So we established a big presence in New York. It's growing. We established also a great presence lately in Singapore, and it's growing. And the need for having people on the ground is to be closer to markets. So you have an efficient communication, you have an efficient execution, and also you're able to attract talent from those specific markets, to be closer to transactions and to the news and the knowledge.
Yeah. Christophe, final word?
We covered, it's good to be back. It's good to see that COVID is behind us and that we are now free to move again and to meet in such circumstances. What is impressive, and Patrick, you cover it, is that when you talk to the younger generation, innovation is happening at the same speed everywhere in the world. The speed at which each one of us is using this instead of going to its bank is the same everywhere in the world. And this is here to stay. Yes, the COVID has reframed globalization, but the general trend, and this is why diversity is so important, is because all our businesses today, they need to think global. And this trend may have been slowed down by the COVID period, but this trend is here to stay.
Right on time. Thank you so much. But for the audiences here, stick around. We still have another session. I would like to invite the three gentlemen off stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. But before I introduce my next panel, we are going to watch a short video from the World Health Organization that is about to start right now.
Esteemed guests and delegates, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the world came together to develop new health technologies in record time: vaccines, diagnostics, and medicines. But drastic inequalities in the distribution of these life-saving tools cost lives and prolonged the pandemic. As we look to the future of healthcare, WHO aims to bring the benefits of science, innovation, data, and digital tools to everyone, regardless of who they are or where they live. Around the world, we're supporting countries to develop the building blocks for a digital health transformation so that health systems can reach more people. Our Innovation Hub identifies new technologies and new approaches to address stubborn problems, especially in low-resource settings. And to make the latest vaccine technology available to more people, WHO and our partners last year established the mRNA Technology Transfer Hub in South Africa, which is now transferring mRNA technology to 15 countries around the world. This is an exciting time for health innovation, and we all prosper when new tools are made accessible and affordable. We welcome the support and partnership of stakeholders across the health ecosystem to harness the power of innovation for a healthier, safer, and fairer future for all. I thank you.
For this next panel, we're going to be discussing investment opportunities in healthcare. And I would like to invite my next three panelists, starting with Christian Angermayer, founder of Apeiron Investment Group. Please give him a hand. We then have Tasneem Dohadwala, founding partner at Excelestar Ventures. Hi, Tasneem. And finally, again from QIA, we have Mohamed Adel Ghanem, who is the head of healthcare at QIA. Thank you for joining us for the second panel. Briefly, healthcare market cap is supposed to reach $1.5 trillion by 2030. That is a big sum of money. So I would like to start right away because, again, we have 25 minutes, get to the questions, hear from the experts. And I want to start with you, Christian. What is your fund's approach when you look at making investments in healthcare? What is the approach you take?
Super broad question.
Very
Thanks
broad.
first for having me. But healthcare is already a broad topic, from hospitals to drug development. So we are focused at Apeiron, aside of our tech side, on the healthcare side, we mainly do biotech drug development. So practically, developing the drugs of tomorrow, from cardiovascular to cancer. But our main focus is actually on longevity, meaning really seeing aging as kind of a disease, which we hopefully someone will be able to slow down and maybe even reverse, and on mental health with the simple thesis, but I think it nails it pretty well. Like, what do we all want in the room, in the world? Literally, what is unifying every human being? We want to be happy and healthy. Yeah, and once we're happy and healthy, then actually I think life is pretty awesome. And we want to enjoy it for as long as possible in this happy and healthy state.
Right. So can I be 100 years old and look 20?
Yes, I'm very sure, first of all, you do look 20. That's the moment when you say you too. No,
Of course. I just didn't know if that would have been.
No, but on a serious note, I think meaning people always, when they think of aging and then somebody says, oh, someone we're going to live till more than 100, then they're waiting for this one headline in the news where like, oh, Christian succeeded, and now we're living to 150. So, but what is really happening is that we gradually, every day practically, every month, every year, we shift life expectancy a bit. So far, we all in the room are still losing more time every day than we're winning with life expectancy. But I'm very sure that actually over the next 10, 15 years, so not that far away, we're going to have this one magic year where we win more than 1 year of additional life expectancy, more than the 1 year we lose. And then technically from there on, yeah, it's sort of this escape velocity. We could live for a very long time.
Yeah. Tasneem, I'll move forward to you. Your approach as an investor,
Yes.
what do you look at in healthcare?
So healthcare is very broad, and our focus is around medical devices and medical devices that are delivering therapies. So it's very specific within medical devices, not instrumentation, not diagnostic aids. It's a very focused investment thesis. And we look at the value proposition. It has to be disruptive, and it has to be communicable. A lot of times we have teams, they're doing something very technically difficult, and they can't really synthesize it down for every audience to understand, so that's critical. The second thing that's critical that we look at is markets. How large is it? Where is it going? Is the timing going to be right when the product enters the market? Timing is really critical to all disruption. And where are the market's going to be after you attain the beachhead market? What are more relevant markets afterwards? And the third point that we look at is all in our due diligence process. We feel that we spend a lot of time doing primary research with providers, truly understanding the need in the market. And also we spend a lot of time doing what I would call quantitative as well as qualitative research, and we put it all together. And then we, of course, like every other investment firm, think about the team. But when you're evaluating a team, it can be an incredibly subjective sort of analysis. And so what we try to do is we actually try to bring an objectivity to it. And how we do that is if you are able to excel and create a compelling evidence-based narrative on the 3 parameters that I already discussed, we believe that that is a sign of an excellent winning team, which is what which we sort of coalesce around and invest in.
It's exciting. And Mohamed, and before you start, I just want to bring forward that Mohamed's background is as a cardiologist.
Yeah.
So
That was
that
a while
is
back, though.
exciting.
No
Mohamed,
consultations allowed today.
QIA's approach. What is your approach when looking at healthcare
So,
investments?
As the esteemed panelists mentioned, healthcare is very broad, and we are as broad as healthcare. So we invest across the spectrum in healthcare, from early stage innovation all the way to the fully fledged. And I think the way we approach the space is the very same way QIA approaches investing in general. So we're very long-term capital providers for what we believe as exciting long-term trends. And the way we view this puts us in a very good place to be great partners to entrepreneurs, managers, funds in either the VC spectrum as well as the buyouts. And we deploy capital across the structure. The way we think about healthcare is we split it into pharma, biotech, healthcare services, and medical devices. And the key thing that we look for, healthcare is a very local business and has very local regulations, and you need to have a very good understanding of the local environments to be able to deploy capital in a good form. So we always look to have good partners across different geographies. But the key trends that we see, and these are I would say the underlying aspects that excites us and makes us see opportunities, is areas of significant unmet medical need, where it's the pain for society and individuals that we need to solve these diseases, as well as the cost question. And these are, I would say, the 2 trends that we always like. So hence, anything that can potentially lower healthcare costs or take care of patients in a way that previously we were not able to treat are key concepts. And there's a lot of examples that we can share. And for us to be able to tackle these questions, we believe in a significant partnership between policy, private capital, as well as NGOs, if you may. The example that I would give here, for example, is in 1983, the United States passed a bill for orphan drug disease. Just for everybody's benefit and background, orphan diseases were historically defined from the name are diseases that nobody wanted to invest in to treat because they affected a very small number of people. After it, today, we're starting to see real breakthroughs like a disease like cystic fibrosis, which was a devastating disease that people would die in their 30s with no options for therapies. Currently are living close to a normal life, same as SMA, because of all these breakthroughs. But this was only enabled by a policy that enables drug pricing to be very expensive for these environments. The hope is that in 30 years, these drugs will be very cheap after losing their patents, and all the world can have them very cheaply. And I think this is, for us, is how we think about this space, how we spend a lot of time trying to understand, okay, what is the social construct here, and what is the contract between innovation and societies to help potentially, hopefully, make life a better place and for us to live to 200 years old.
Right, that's the goal. I'm betting on that, by the way.
I'm not sure that's the goal, but
If we look 20,
yes,
that is.
Yeah.
healthy and happy. I think that's the goal.
And looking 20.
We're going to make it all happen.
We're going to make it happen.
No, but on a serious note, the good thing is there is no way to push life expectancy significantly without also rejuvenating it. So that is, I think, what instinctively some people, because it's weird, sometimes I tell people, oh, maybe you're going to live till 120, whatever, and they, oh, I don't want to. And I was like, why would you not want to? And then I realized that they have a 90-year-old auntie, and which is not in a good shape, and in their mind they're like, okay, do I want to live 30 years more like her? But that's not going to be the case. In a moment I would ask you, do you want to live like you now for another 100 years from now? You would say, sure I would. Yeah. You will not have life extension significantly without at the same time being able to really rejuvenate yourself.
Yeah, I'd actually like to go back to 20.
I'm gonna work on it.
But Tasneem, I wanna go to you and ask about, a fun question. What are sectors in the industry that you're excited about, and technological trends that you're monitoring and think that have prospects?
Well, so I'll go back to one of your questions around, or comments around price. So the things that we're looking at with our startups is an increasing degree of how startups are incorporating customer centricity into their development cycle. So customers in medical devices are not just the end users or the patients, they're the providers, they're the payers in America, they're the payers, and they're the hospital system. So you really need to be thinking about what do each one of those customer segments need, one. Two, it's not just about the best device, it's about the best device that's the easiest to deploy, plus that's cost effective. So putting all these nice to haves into your device isn't always essential, because if it isn't hitting what the customers actually need, then you're just making it more expensive than it needs to be. So companies that are focused on that and bringing it into their early development cycle, we view that as a key trend and something that we are really looking at closely. Another thing that we're looking at closely is the personalization of medical devices. So, we've seen a sort of an individualized approach to therapy, and I think it's happening in medical devices as well, based on medical devices that have sort of novel, flexible materials that can really mold and conform to individuals' anatomy, is going to deliver therapy in a way that we haven't seen before with medical devices, as well as the addition of sensors onto medical devices. The benefit that brings is that you can now use this medical device that's developing therapy and modulate the device therapy as the disease progresses over time. So that, to me, is truly creating a personalized medical device for the individual based on their anatomy and how their disease is going to progress. And that, to me, is very akin to therapeutics that you both are investing in. And, we actually have specific companies within our portfolio where we're seeing them use these novel materials, whether it be in left atrial appendage closure or liquid embolics. And so we think there's a lot of promise there.
Mohamed, anything exciting you're looking at?
So I think from my perspective, healthcare innovation is definitely on a significant stride up. A lot of things to be excited about. The analogy that I usually say is that it cost $1 billion in the late 90s to sequence the genome of one individual. And now we can sequence the genome for $1,000 per individual. It's a massive breakthrough in innovation, being able to understand the code of life if you want to address aging, if you want to address and any other form of disease. Also, of course, so medical devices is space, the engineering and the capability for you to shorten procedures. A hip replacement that used to require always an inpatient, now it's done as an outpatient procedure. This is a breakthrough in engineering and the continuity of it. So we actually think that there's a lot of, we're still in the early innings, I would say, in understanding biology and disease, plus significant pain points in the healthcare systems, and the combination of these two things. And if you add to it the layer of artificial intelligence and how we can curate all this humongous number of data that, at least for a limited mind like mine, is very difficult to comprehend, to be able to curate it in a way that is enabling better decision making. Because again, either drug development or device development is relatively, you're playing against the odds.
Yeah.
When you're starting off, you're having a very low probability of success. And this is also another area that we invest in a lot, which is life sciences services and tools, which enables a better shot on target from an R&D perspective, that hopefully the return on investment in R&D can be higher, and hence you would lower the cost of all these products once they reach the market. We think either in areas of biosimulation, or how we can understand human biology and make sure that what we're seeing in the lab can be replicated in humans, is a massive breakthrough. And the more we can do these simulations and do them accurately, we actually can cause a lot of breakthrough and lower significant human suffering.
Christian, I have a feeling I know what you're excited about, but
Well, yes, about longevity, but like also like two things maybe. Like one is for those who are not in healthcare or biotech, sort of I think they not fully yet comprehending how much of innovation we're going to see in the next 10 years. Because like people are closer, and one panelist before like pulled out his phone and said, oh, we all feel exponential innovation in tech because we use it every day, and we saw the rise of iPhone and the apps. And the same though is happening in the labs. The normal, let's call it consumer, so the patient, doesn't just see it. So, but in a very positive way, because everything we talking here is not like a dream, or when I talk about really like take aging again, like it's not a dream. Like we have drugs in phase 1 and 2, which means in biotech pretty far advanced, which, for example, give you just one example, we found one compound, we all have still stem cells. So if you have heard like you need to freeze the umbilical cord blood for your children, you don't need to, because every human being still has stem cells, which we thought we didn't. But why we don't know why, they become dormant. So we found a compound, which we already have in phase 2, which is literally making your stem cells work again. So we have literally blind people who grow in their old age new eyes, which are young eyes, So, and once you did it with the eye, we started with that, you can sort of do that into other body parts. But what I want to say is I think I'm very, very positive and optimistic, and not just, again, because of a belief, but because what I'm seeing in our portfolio and other people's portfolio, how much of positive innovation in healthcare the next 10 years will bring. But at the same time, sort of that is, I would say, makes me also excited, but sort of in a way, because I want to solve the problem. Next to longevity, what we really focused on is mental health. Meaning there was, and I know it was meant positively, but the joke with the TikTok, and I was like, it's not good if a 17-year-old girl is 16 hours on the day on TikTok, because this is an addiction, which is equally strong than cocaine or heroin. So we have an entire generation. So what if you look at, which is very, very sad, if you look at the numbers of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, addiction of drugs, post-traumatic stress disorder, body dysmorphia, which can be either obesity or anorexia or whatever. If you look at just the charts, and I wouldn't tell you what these diseases are, they look like an infectious disease, as if they're spreading around the world. The official number alone of the WHO is that more than 1 billion people have a diagnosed mental health issue, but mental health still is very stigmatized, unfortunately. So many people who need it or who would need help don't come forward. So our estimate is that the sort of unofficial number is rather 2 billion. Yeah, and it's massively growing. So something in the world, as much as I personally, and I think we here in the room love it, yeah, because we're all investing in tech, we're all investing in innovation, but we also have to acknowledge that something in the world we're creating is terribly bad for our mental health. Yeah, and you see it throughout all generations, but especially in young people. Yeah, and that's sort of the other part I'm trying to focus on when investing, is finding solutions for that. Because again, you want to be healthy, but you also want to be happy. And I think we really have to catch up as a society globally with that sort of happiness.
Yeah. And just if I may take from that trajectory, so the trajectory of the healthcare innovation, I think I'm a fan of history, I love to study history in general, so if we look at history, the only way we had options to treat diseases was chemical compounds all the way until the 1980s. And then a group in San Francisco that founded Genentech started to manipulate proteins. Of course, other universities in the UK started that as well. And then we had another option of proteins. And then until the late 90s, once we sequenced the genome, right now, if you look at the amount of tools that we have to manipulate biology, it's just so expansive, either by gene therapy, gene editing, or other different forms of drug delivery, either from medical devices perspective. But as the example that I gave, 1983 was the bill passed. 2000s is when we first saw the first medication. Science is a very iterative process. And as I always say to my team, it's a pursuit of ignorance, because every mistake and every failure enables the next step to unblock something that can potentially work. And I think I 100% share the enthusiasm of the panelists here that we are at the cusp of a trajectory. Where will it go from here is very difficult to predict, at least from my perspective. But it's definitely, we're seeing elements in science that we've never seen before.
Which is, I mean, this was one of my questions, right? And I just want to know if you think that traditional medicine still needs the majority of investment, or if in fact we are on the cusp of funding these new medicinal industries. What do you think? Like, if you were to make a comparison, where do you think your money should be allocated? Tasneem?
So I think that traditional medicine is still, in my opinion, going to be the foundation of all the science that we do. However, I do think we're at the inflection point, and I think we need to start making decisions around what we're going to do around this inflection point. We're at an inflection point because you had mentioned around AI, and AI is allowing us to aggregate so much data, but just aggregating the data is not sufficient. You actually have to do something with the data. And so when we look at the genome, it's amazing how quickly we can sequence it at such a lower cost, but there's so many other factors that we're thinking about, as in there's the microbiome and how rapidly we can run trials and experiments with the microbiome, bacteria that may be impacting our body. If you think about imaging modalities, we're using now AI-enabled imaging modalities to be able to see cancer that traditional radiology images, readings didn't find, or using AI to understand cardiac health in a way that typical MRI didn't do. So I do think that what we're doing is, if we are able to harness the volume of data that we are able to produce, and we're actually able to optimize it and use it in a way that leads to better outcomes, then I think that what we end up doing is, yes, perhaps living longer, but living healthier longer, which is really the key. Nobody wants to be 90 and frail and sort of not with their faculties. They want to be 90 and robust and vibrant. And so if we can harness the
20.
power. Sorry, and look 20, of course. I want to look 20, always. I am 20, actually. I think that that's really important, because a lot of data is not valuable if you don't know how to use it.
100%.
So that's, to me, the big takeaway with AI.
Yeah.
And just to continue the agreeing on the panel, is that the more you unlock in science, the more ignorant you find out you are. Because when we sequenced the genome, we thought that we did everything that can be done, but then suddenly realized that there's this epigenetics field on how these things get expressed that we have no clue why two people having the same genome, not the same, but similar, but having very different expressions. And the more you learn, the more you find out that you're extremely ignorant.
Right, and you did hint at the answer of whether traditional medicine requires the majority of funding, but as a fund and as a decision maker in the fund, is that the approach you're following?
So yeah, so doctors are not going out of business anytime soon. I rest assure all my previous colleagues that their jobs are safe.
Right.
But definitely there is a lot of room for innovation. The key question is that, okay, the cost of the innovation in the early implementation phase is the most difficult and most expensive. And that's why you see it usually it's in the countries where they can afford it the most. But like everything in innovation, price tends to drop down significantly. And this is where the trickle-down effect, and hence, I generally believe, like in most economics of industries, when you look at it, you need to think about what is the social contract that this innovation cycle has. And I actually think, both from a pharma industry as well as medical device industry, the social contract is a very healthy social contract. So you start off with a very expensive price to fund innovation, because the only way you know the medication is safe is for you to test it reliably on a significant number of people. And these testings aren't cheap. And you don't want regulators to be loose in it because you don't know if a drug is effective or not. So we need to be very strict and stringent in these aspects. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement in everything, but you need them to be strict. But at the very same time, you need this investment to be rewarded so the investment continues. And then after it, as time progresses, if you're looking at a time horizon of 40, 50 years, the example that I would use here is that LDL, which is a big problem for cardiovascular diseases, which is cholesterol. Back in the 1980s, we had no options. Lipitor, the most valuable drug until recently replaced by Humira, was the first treatment that we had for that. It lowered it effectively, significantly reduced cardiovascular risk. It was the most valuable drug for a long period of time. But once the patent is lost now, people all over the world are taking it for $3, which is, from a cost-effective perspective, one of the most things. So there's definitely a period of investment and a period of return that people need to make. But definitely, if you're looking at it at a longer time horizon, the benefits to society and everybody is tremendous. And this is the area that we focus on the most, is that we think that for businesses to thrive and survive over the long term, you need to be solving big problems for society and actually enabling a better place for all participants in the social construct.
And Christian, I want to end with you with this question, which is also going to be a little generic, but what do you think is the best or most effective way to work with partners, stakeholders, especially when you're working on something that may face some non-believers? What do you think as an investor is your best approach?
That's a good question. Meaning non-believers like in...
Generally.
In science, or is it like... normally, I'm actually thinking like just do it, and then people like... Meaning I was thinking like, if you deliver drugs which make you live longer, and people say, no, I don't want to live longer, I was like, wait till I have it, and then tell me again if you still don't want it. Like, I don't think like, I don't want to actively turn somebody in a believer, it depends in what, but like I think you produce a great product, and then some people like it, some people not, and I think in biotech they always like it. That's the great thing with biotech, and with healthcare in general, we're producing things, if they are successful, they make people healthier. Who doesn't like that?
Yeah. Great way to end the discussion and the session. This is the last of it. So I'd like to thank my three panelists. Thank you for joining us and for the very exciting discussion. And thank you for everyone who's joined us today.